Beth Conrey, Bee Squared Apiaries, and I would say I've been keeping bees for about 20 to 23 years. I started out with 2 colonies like everybody else does, and this year we'll push over a couple hundred. Initially, we just started out, doubling up, and they hit about 25 hives, and somewhere I read that 25 hives is miserable, and it was very true. Took us a long time to get over 25 hives, and it just makes you realize that you have to have consistency on all sorts of different scales. But at 25 hives, it's really about equipment. What do you have those bees in, and can you move it around? Because you got to move frames around, you got to move bees around, you got to move boxes around, you got to change out bottom boards, whatever it is that you've got to do to keep moving throughout the day has to be consistent. And we, of course, grew like everybody else did. Hey, I don't want bees anymore, you want my stuff, And so we had just this collection of stuff. And we got out of it, and just all we do is our stuff now. What are we doing here at Bee Squared to get ready for the upcoming season? Well, we are building equipment. What we do is we make an assessment of how many colonies we're going to go to. So we're going to assume, just for the purposes of planning, that we're going to have the average winter loss rate that the U.S. has, which is about 40%. We run off of 30. Okay, so we say 30% losses. Last year we're at 180 hives. We're going to lose whatever that is, 72 of those hives. That's what we're going to run our numbers off. Okay, so if we're back down to 110 colonies, then what does that look like in the spring? Where are we going to get by the time we have to split them and everything else comes through? And so we're going to probably go back into the 220 range by the time we're done with spring. And so if we're planning on 220 colonies next spring, then how many stands do we have? How many more locations do we need to site and set? How many more boxes do we need? How many more bottom boards? How many more screen boards? How many more deeps? How many more supers? How many more frames? We are on a 4-year frame rotation. So if we've got 200 hives in the field, then that's 200 times, that's 2,000 frames in the field. That means that we have to have 400 frames ready to just pull out gross frames. We melt out the gross frames and we use the frames themselves, but the foundation gets pitched and we start over again. So we have to do all that math. All we do is math. We have to make sure we got 220 inner covers, 220 outer covers, and then we've got to have queen excluders, supers. It's just all the math that goes with figuring out how much we're going to need for those colonies. There's always a lot of questions about feeding, but basically we do the lift test in the fall, and so we want good weights on everybody, and if the weights are light, then we're going to consider a couple of things. We're either going to consider stacking those colonies with another colony, or we're going to consider adding some honey frames. We keep honey frames banked for that occasion. We did an experiment with people called Hive Tech Solutions that are running indoor trailers, consistent temperature trailers for overwintering bees on smaller scale. And so it's a constant CO2 and temperature thing. And so it's just designed to keep bees from not having to experience this negative 15, 60 business that we're going through here. And when we did that, we had just this really super interesting outcome out of it. So we weighed all the colonies going into it, and then we weighed all the colonies coming out of it. And the interesting thing for me was that we had colonies were super heavy going in. All of them weighed between 90 and 140 pounds. Tons of weight. That's lots of weight. Plenty of food for bees for the wintertime. We'd have colonies that went in at 140 pounds that were dead. We had colonies that went in at 130, came out at 125. That sounded like jet engines. We had hives that went in at 90, came out at 75, that were perfectly happy and healthy. But that sweet spot in the middle is what we started selecting for. It's like we want efficient bees. Okay? We want bees that manage resources in the winter. And so we started keeping an eye on weights, population numbers, in and out of winter. And then we've selected from those queens for our splits. And I like to do my splits a certain way. So on a 10 frame deep, I have a numbering system. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Left is odd, right is even. And so we will have, this will be our nomenclature for what we're doing. So we're going to set up these boxes, these deep boxes, and we're going to have 2 honey frames at 9 and 10, 4 foundation frames, straight foundation frames in, what's that, 6, 7, 8, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so banked by the 2, and then we're working towards the center. So now we're at the center, 4 frames, and we're going to have 4 drawn comb frames, 1 hopefully a frame of pollen. And that is how we're going to preset all of these boxes so they're ready to go. And we preset them, and we tape them up, and we ratchet strap them. We actually put them out on the stands so that we're picking them up and putting on the splits, picking and putting, and then we keep this cycle going so we can just move it to the next stand. And so we always have that equipment just ready to go, ready to go, ready to go. And then once we do that, reconfigure all these boxes that are in here so that integrates all that new hardware at the same time, and then that's all ready. And that's primarily what we're going to do in March. What's an excellent question? Why do we have such attrition in the first 3 years of beekeeping? It's not a rifle, it's a shotgun. There's a lot of different reasons. The first is that it's expensive, relatively speaking. I mean, you can sit around and watch bumblebees and native bees for free, but honeybees are going to cost you. Last year when I did the costs, and I haven't started teaching yet this year, but I always revised the cost for the new classes. And last year I think we were at $636 to put 2 colonies in. That's a lot of money. And then you have a 50% loss rate amongst hobbyists because that's really their only options. 100% success, 50% success, or 50% failure, or 100% failure. So their numbers are always 0, 100, or 50. That's all they have for an option, right? And so you lose one of those hives. It's pretty disappointing. You busted your ass on that hive all year long. What did you do wrong? It becomes this mental thing. And then really you didn't do anything wrong. You could have done everything absolutely perfectly right. Look, we're still going to lose 20% of these bees no matter what we do. We know that anymore. We just plan for it. But it's distressing. It's ungratifying to go through that when you lost 50% of your stock, right? And so then you're going to have to decide if you're going to pony it up again. Oh, great. Now, packages are up to what? $130. Nukes are up over 200. So we're going to make this investment again. And how many years can you keep doing it? If you're not fascinated, like if you don't want to go out there and just pull a chair up and grab a beer and see what they're doing that afternoon on the way late in the day, it's probably not your gig. And it's okay to say no. It's okay to say no. Not everything is for everybody. All of us try things that didn't turn out to be what we were good at or really wanted to do, even though we were convinced it was what we wanted to do at the time. And so I think it's okay to say no. But I think that you will inherently fast track if you're fascinated. Why should you join a club? 1, you're going to have access to mentorship. 2, you're going to have access to education. 3, you're going to join at the same time a whole bunch of people who are the same as you join there, and you're going to get yourself a nice little peer group. And 4, you're going to establish that camaraderie, and it will be a lot easier for you to pick up the phone and go, I'm looking in my hive and it looks like this. What are you seeing in yours? I don't know. Come on over here. Let's see what it looks like. And there's, people like to be in supportive environments, and certainly a beekeeping group offers that on a pretty hard hobby. So Bee Squared is a generous organization, and we are generous with our time as well as our money. And so if there's anything we can do to help you in your furthering of your beekeeping experience, feel free to shoot us an email, Beth@bethsbees.com. Visit our website at bethsbees.com. And you can see all of our product offerings, all of our beautiful beeswax candles. We utilize really every product that's available out of the hive. It is all available on our site, and you can check it out and see what you think. Thank you.